I do not know how many times I've had to deal with this question, but it has always resulted in the same point, and I'm here to tell you each and every one of you this oh so important fact. Final Fantasy Spirits Within is a Final Fantasy movie! Holy crap! How did something so stupid and easily disprovable become so completely widespread to the point where almost anyone I talk to will present this point, one, as if it is valid and somehow intelligent, and two, if it is their own opinion and they thought it up? No, you did not. You did not think of that yourself, and it is not a valid point. The whole thing started the day after the theatrical release. I was watching G4, you know that awesome TV station that was amazing before it got ruined? The day after the first showing because I was a child and I couldn't get to the theater and I was hoping to hear something about the movie. The first time this was mentioned was on G4TV.com, the TV show. A woman with short blonde hair was there, and she was the only one to have watched the movie, and she stated clearly that it was not a Final Fantasy movie, and that was why she did not like it. Now, it is very possible that others said the same thing, though I would believe that it would take a special kind of stupid to come up with that. But she was the first to say it in a manner that spoke to a large audience. Then, just like John Carpenter's The Thing, the idea spread throughout the entire country and infected every single person on the planet. And to this day, the idiot masses and the gamer community as a whole are infinitely dumber because this one woman opened her mouth and no one had an intelligent thing to speak against it. It has so completely corrupted everyone that even someone whose opinion I not only respect, but also congratulate his brilliance on, has fallen victim to this disease. I can only hope that when Spoonie goes to review this himself, that he will at least question this pathetic notion. Luckily for the entire gaming community, even as an 11-year-old, I had the sense to call bullshit on this, and at the time I only had played 2 Final Fantasy games. And now that I've played most of the Final Fantasy games, that is even more of a retarded statement, and you should be ashamed of the fact that you didn't question it yourself. Well, this is the point in which I have to explain myself and prove that it is a Final Fantasy movie, even though I shouldn't have to. Well, the setting's a good place as any to start. Just so you know, this will not end quickly. This movie is set in a place where most of society has been destroyed by something and the rest of humans live in selected areas. Nope, not a single game like that. Spirits has technology that is futuristic in nature. Remind you of anything? In a dream? No Final Fantasy game is like that. Except Tactics Advance, or the whole Cloud Subconscious thing. Well, you might be saying parts of Spirits takes place in space. What Final Fantasy takes place in space? What Final Fantasy indeed. What? A political climate where the military and other factions are vying for control? That never happened in a Final Fantasy. Nope, never. Inside a science facility. Well, no one uses swords, so people might say it's not a Final Fantasy, but people use guns in Final Fantasy games. Hopefully Spoonie will like that. Airships. A lot of time on airships. The literal end of the Earth. Not even close, baby. Does that look familiar or what? Has nothing to do with the Final Fantasy, though. Now, I know most of you will attempt to bring up the fact that this movie takes place on Earth, and none of the Final Fantasy takes place on Earth. How am I gonna work around this logic that is blatantly and desperately attempting to hold on to this lazy argument? Oh wait, that's right! Part of Tactics Advance takes place on Earth! Guess you better try again, Riddler! Some of you are probably understanding the point that I'm trying to get across. For those that do, congrats. But I'm not even close to stopping, and I will hammer in every point that I can think of just because this retarded notion has caused so much damage, and it's my turn to hurt it back. Characters are pretty similar as well. The main character is the person who saves the world. Yeah, that seems about right. The main character is also destined to save the world. Sure, why not? Super evil main villain that is either crazy or extremely illogical. And he's James Woods. Leader figure that takes no guff from no one. Sid is in this movie as well. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you're a worthless human being. Or you happen to be here because of another reason and you do not believe that Spirits Within is not a Final Fantasy film. Comic relief character that acts weird? Yeah, maybe he's a little less weird than the normal Final Fantasy comic relief, but he's also Steve Buscemi, so extra points for that. Token Black Guy. Well, it's said that there are only a few games with this in it, but it's a Final Fantasy thing. Many of the core group is ex-military. Yeah, boy! Old man that is either a brilliant scientist or has wisdom that is extremely helpful to the group. Godlike entity. Yep. Random people that are there only to get killed. Yes, the bad guys are ghosts, but ghosts and spirits are no stranger to this series. Maybe it's the fact that the lead character is a female. Well, I guess that's kind of a sexist mentality, but, I mean, I guess Final Fantasy fans don't like women? I guess? Oh wait, never mind, that's right, 13. Self-sacrifice for the greater good can be fulfilled. Romance subplot that will either have little relevance to the story or is there solely to cause drama. I think they call that the fan fiction effect. Prison Break! Dreams. Kind of like a Focus. And many other things. Oh no! Not a wreck! Aww. Doctor, there's a war going on. Awkward romantic moment. Don't you just love these? Gotta gather up a bunch of random crap in order to save the world. Now that's how the entire series started. Evil military causes trouble for the group. Shinra. Evil military causes even more trouble after the group fixes the old trouble. Shinra. Evil military destroys itself. It's Shinra! Come on, guys! Time to split up in order to do multiple objectives at the same time. Someone gets sick, and there's urgency to help them. Vicious government takeover by the military, even if they don't have the power to legally do so. Look at that! It's credits! Both have credits! It proves it! Now that I've gone through that mess, and I have made many enemies that will not be able to articulate themselves properly, let me tell you why this movie flopped at the box office, and why it is hated by everyone, even though a single person never watched it, and neither has anyone ever played a single Final Fantasy game. After Final Fantasy VII, the fandom for the series shifted very dramatically from the hardcore RPG fans that love the series to a massive group of fangirls, and this is because Final Fantasy VII and VIII changed its storytelling style to embrace a larger audience. This increased the fans of the series by a massive amount and proved to be very lucrative for Square. The new fan base became very vocal about wanting to get a movie based on the series, showing this new group of fans to be either really dumb or really young. So Square took a risk and made a very expensive and extremely advanced movie that is just now barely being surpassed today. But what Square didn't know is when all these fans said they wanted a Final Fantasy movie, they didn't mean they wanted a Final Fantasy movie, they wanted a Final Fantasy VII movie. So when Cloud wasn't in the movie, everyone threw a massive hissy fit. And I'm guessing the reason it's not a Final Fantasy movie became so popular was because of three combined things. Some people saw the movie and didn't understand why they were so angry with it. Others saw the movie and was too ashamed to say why they hated it, so they latched onto the excuse. And the last is that people were angry that Square couldn't decipher that fans wanted a 7 movie, even though most never said that that's what they wanted, and at the time Square was still making very diverse and original games, and they might try something completely new for this risky project. Now, I'm not even going to take the time to explain why I like this movie, because no one has watched it, or if they have, they don't need to know why it's good because they already know. The best I can hope for this video is that somehow reverses some of the damage caused by it's not a Final Fantasy movie and gets some people to watch the movie with an open mind. I have had this argument in real life and on the net hundreds of times, and not once has a single person ever had a real reason why they didn't like this movie. Even if they didn't dare say it out loud, it always comes back to the phrase that has completely destroyed the credibility of all gaming. What I will do for my next GAAFAR video is discuss how awful Advent Children is and how it isn't a Final Fantasy movie.